Hey everybody, I am on the road to Portland currently, driving through lots of foresty highway and just trying to kill some time. So I attended the CADEM convention, the California Democratic Party convention over the weekend, and Bernie, as well as I think something like 12 other presidential candidates, all came and spoke at various general session and caucuses, and there were other off-site events and fundraisers. So it was an action-packed weekend. There was a lot going on. There was a lot of protesting, a lot of issue raising, some really exciting things to see, and thought-provoking ideas getting some attention, which is great. So there's two things that I wanted to talk about, and just thinking about the weekend is Bernie and how the campaign handled his visit and his promotion at the convention, and also a little bit on the chairs race. So I'll start with Bernie. Bernie really knocked it out of the park. We know that his ideas are very popular, and they're popular with lots of different people. They appeal to the working class, really, to pretty much everybody who isn't incredibly rich or have some sort of corporate interest that keeps them fairly wealthy. So Bernie connects with us. He's able to simplify ideas really well and explain them and get people to connect. What I think as a criticism is that the campaign itself does not seem to be very well organized, and perhaps that has something to do with they really want to empower the grassroots, and I think that's a great idea. You want people to, us, not me, right? So it's about people rising up and becoming leaders so that they are doing the work. And that's fantastic. However, there's a little bit of quality control lacking in what is happening with the volunteer base for promoting Bernie at these events. So at first, when I first got there, it seemed like he didn't have much of a presence, and perhaps that was because people were still arriving and they were kind of getting everything together. But I was seeing not a lot of organized activity for Bernie on day one. Then it might have been that same night, later in the evening, there was a group of people marching through the halls during the caucuses, and they were chanting, and it sounded angry. And if you weren't really close to what was going on, you wouldn't have even realized that they were trying to promote Bernie. It sounded like a protest. It sounded like an angry protest, and the only other group I saw doing that actually was protesting. It was the Rent is Too Damn High group, which is great. They were marching around and chanting and protesting for rent control. But this group, I'm sure that they intended to promote Bernie, but the way it came across was like trying to beat people into submission. I think it really rubbed people the wrong way that was handled. The other thing that happened, there wasn't a lot going on for Saturday in regards to sign waving or getting people together or having any sort of like traditional get the vote out for your candidate. But on Sunday, they did a fantastic job of getting at the bottom of the escalators going into general session and chanting Bernie 2020 and Bernie beats Trump, and they had a nice big group, and that actually worked out really well. What did not work out well is that somebody allowed volunteers wearing California for Bernie shirts to distribute a flyer that promoted media sources. It was a pledge, and it included Melissa Michelson, her contact information. So I'm assuming that she either wrote the pledge or was a co-author of this pledge. But it is very left-wing. It is definitely not something that appeals to the majority of voters who support Bernie. And it requires that we basically reject any mainstream media and start watching known conspiracy theorists, as well as 3 different programs on RT. So for my friends in Orange County and across the country who are not familiar with what RT is, it is a network called Russia Today. It's called RT for short, and it is Russian-sponsored television. So the irony in this is that this group of what I would call toxic left, because they keep trying to bully everybody into submission, they want you to reject corporate-sponsored media, which I definitely agree with them that you need to take it with a grain of salt. It is far more entertainment value than actually news value. So you definitely need to, take it with a grain of salt and use your judgment when you're watching it. But for some reason, they think that anything that's on RT is completely legit, rather than realizing that it too is sponsored by the Russian government. It has an agenda. It is, I don't know what to tell y'all. But what's worse is they were doing it while they were representing Bernie. And establishment centrists have already been trying to say, oh, Bernie's too soft on Russia and he's a Russian tool. Like, come on. Why are you trying to hurt him by doing this? You're representing him as a volunteer. And some of them, I think, had staff badges on. You're representing him. I'm positive, never gave you permission to give some sort of endorsement for these media sources. And here you are representing the campaign with this... I'm at a loss for words. I don't even know what to say about this. This is nuts. So let me get into the chairs race for a second. The chairs race, and I've mentioned this on my wall before, is that there's just a group of really toxic people from Los Angeles primarily that are killing campaigns, and that flyer is a perfect example of it. They were also surrounding Kim Ellis in her chair race, and I'm quite certain that had a large hand in how she performed in the vote, for a few reasons. One, people who were on the fence started to get really worried, and I heard from several of my political contacts that they were scared of who she was surrounding herself with. They were very worried about who she was surrounding herself with, and rightly so. There was a large contingent of people who are not Democrats who were trying to influence this race. And that actually, that leads me to the next point, which is her support was artificially inflated. So the amount of people wearing t-shirts or waving signs, it was not a true representation of her support, because they were they didn't have votes. They couldn't vote. And not only could they not vote as delegates, they don't even have any say in the Democratic Party and what happens with the Democratic Party, because they're not Democrats. And it's really bizarre to me that people who are not Democrats want to have so much influence over who leads the California Democratic State Party. But I suppose that's what, opposing political groups do. They try and come in and take over. But I'm not sure what would have happened. Had she won, that would have taken away their whole thunder of we need to leave the party. Now you've got your candidate, right? So she wins. What are you gonna just keep complaining about the party? Are you gonna turn your back on her? Are you gonna, are you gonna be disappointed by the first move she makes so that you can continue saying how terrible the Democratic Party is? Or are you all of a sudden going to be on board? Because it seems to me that that whole storyline of how terrible the party is and how much you hate duopoly, that pretty much defines your entire group. You lose that, what do you have? You got nothing left. You don't have your complaints anymore. So anyway, Rusty Hicks won. He is a labor leader. Don did a great video on this yesterday, talking about how labor made their move. That's absolutely what happened, and I don't know why people are freaking out about this, because I saw a lot of people there who were voting for Rusty and also supporting Bernie Sanders. Why? Because labor loves Bernie. I don't know what you're freaking out about. Seriously. This is a good thing. Labor has been organizing with Bernie for several different events. They're better at it. They're more respectable than what we're seeing come out of LA. And so while I agree that we do need to empower the grassroots, I don't think we need to do it for conventions and large events. I think when it comes to conventions and large events, you need to just give them a forum where they can advocate for various issues and ideas, but they should not be running the show. You need to have professionals come in who actually know how to do event management, who know how to promote a candidate. None of this getting people who just stand on the corner and chant rallies. It's got to get cleaned up, because that was a poor representation of what we are as a movement, and it certainly does not represent Bernie and his ideas and his basically who he is as a person. And I hope that this changes. That's all I'm going to say on it right now, is that I really hope it changes, because we can do better. We can certainly do better than this. Anyway, I'm going to go so I can pay better attention to the road. Talk to y'all later.